So today what we're going to be trying to do, we have a CB radio and the owner of the vehicle does not want the CB radio like in their face. They're not going to use it more than like 3 times a year. They don't need their glove box, so we're going to try to stealth mount the CB radio right about here. That way, you know, you could open it, push the buttons, tune it, close the hatch, you got yourself your good old radio. And then the antenna is going to be mounted on the spare tire rack. It's already aftermarket as a whole. It'll be good. So I'll be showing you guys how to fabricate very cheaply a mount for your CB radio in your glove box.
Yeah, get everything.
So anyways, there's a way to do this where you can get this to fit depending on what cable you get. Getting this little wire through here, you don't want to cuss too hard, but I came out here and in on the other side where the factory loom comes in. Basically what we're going to do is you're going to fit your coax in there. You're going to fish it through. I don't know if it's going to work though. I'm glad I cut this. There's old girl right there. Sorry about the helicopter noise. We're on an airport. So try to do this.
You might have to finger it.
Yeah. Hold on, let's pull out a little bit. Pull out and up. I'm thinking if I just fold it in, I'll break it down.
There we go.
And then this, you want a piece of rubber right here, can feed all the way through, be covered up by the factory trim, nice and stuff. Alright, so here's something you always want to do. See, from the factory, even though it's not factory, most stuff, they have grommets, right? So right here, see this wire is going to do a sharp 180-degree bend across the piece of metal. So this right here is basic vacuum tubing you get at the auto parts store. Cut a piece, I'm going to put it over here. Very carefully, without cutting yourself, slice down the middle to open it up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to slip it on there. Don't drop it in there like I almost just did. Alright. Try to save your cuss words. Put it around just like that, see? And then your wire is not going to catch or cut. Now, with a little bit of slack, you don't want it super tight because you never want tight wires. You're going to take your cable ties. And I'm going to go along the factory loom right here. Just to keep the wires tucked out of the way, because when you're driving you don't want to hear that noise, right? Alright, now I have this conduit for this wire. It's not going to do anything except for make it look pretty. I'll slip this guy on there. Okay, now going behind here, my last cable tie will go around this and this to keep it from sliding. And then this will go in the door just like that, next to the factory, and in like that. And then let's go. Let's go! Right here. Trim all these flush.
Looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Throw the top in. Just like that. Alright, so for this grommet, for the wire, right? I'm gonna drill a hole. Come on. So now you kind of have a hole right there for the wire. That way it's not super tight for this grommet. Now I'm going to take the razor blade. I'm just going to slice half, right? Because the tip of that coax cable is really big. Now, right in here, the grommet towards the bottom, not towards the top. The little slice I cut. And you're just going to squeeze that in there. That's another reason why you want to drill a hole too, so it still fits. Even though this one's gonna be, I might need some trimming. Come on, you old girl. Yeah, I should probably use soapy water to get this thing back in. I'm gonna get in your shot. Just let that back in there. And then this wire will be just like that. So the easiest way to route this cable, it's going to the glove box, we already know that. Glove box on the passenger side. So no point in going all around the Jeep. So what I'm gonna do is where this wire goes in, I'm gonna feed this wire. I'm gonna try to route it up behind this carpeting, as you can see, or the loom. You have places to secure it. I'm gonna come down this side. It's just like if you ever installed a subwoofer, your power cable, right? We're gonna go all the way down here, follow this under here. We're gonna go through here. We're gonna go through here, up where these cables are going, and then around the back side of this HVAC unit out to this side. This is the side it needs to come out on, because that's where it plugs into the radio. And it shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. So we'll get cracking on that and I'll update you. Get these at Harbor Freight. These are plastic trim tools. See too many people trying to pop trim off with their little screwdrivers and they damage the plastic or the paint. So Jeeps are historically easy to take apart. Nothing's really strong. So you could put your finger in here, pop this loose, right? And you already got this piece of plastic pretty much all the way through where you need it. But if you need to, let's see, this angled one would work. Pop it in there, and pop these they're the clips. You pop the clips loose, just like that. And see, now I got full access. Full enough access for me to get through here. So we'll take this cable, we'll go in, and around where we need to go. And pop this back in. Alright, so on the inside, you're not going to have to worry too much about cable ties, but since this is the closest point to the exterior of the vehicle where this wire goes, you're going to want to secure it. That way it does not move and disrupt the rest of your wiring. So we'll give it a little bit of slack. You can kind of match it to this one. That way you know you're going to have enough for it closing without pinching. And tie that guy right on there. Trim the end off. I'm thinking this hole would be the perfect place. Underneath this plastic in this hole, we'll take the wire around like this. Now I'm going to put the carpet back where it wants to be. We'll tuck it in there when we're ready to finish it. Plastic over there. Now it's a lot easier. Pop these back in. Pop this trim back together. Just like that. Pop that on. And re-Velcro this. Try to squeeze it in there where it was. Alright, now we're going to take the rest of our cables. Excuse me. So, what I always learned when tying cables and routing them is you're usually good when your cable's flat, but wherever your cable bends to go into a different direction, that's where you're going to mount another cable tie. So since this cable is going to be going 90 degrees from straight across to down, put my cable tie right there. And then snip the end as close as possible so you don't cut your hands on it. Pop that in there, right? And now we are done. Back here, we can put the carpet back where it wants to be. Then we're going to go down here. All the way down and then through here. So I'm going to use my handy dandy trim tool. Didn't even damage it. I'm going to pop this one out so I have a little bit more access. Come on, old girl. Okay, now I can pull this back and you can see where my big fat head in the way, the best place to route this around. So what I'm going to do is go towards the front and free it up a little bit. So same idea. Now this whole piece of plastic moves out of my way, right? And I pretty much got my hand through there. So now I'll take this. Feed it through till I feel it. Alright, now I'm grabbing it with my other hand. And voila, just like that. I'm going to untangle this. To do these without bending them is make sure they're completely straight and put full pressure in the middle of your thumb, right in the middle. I know it sounds too in detail, but they will go in every time perfect without. A lot of people will push those in and they'll bend, kind of like when you hit a nail in. And then I got one more to remove up here. just like that. But I could put these two back. Well, I'll wait actually. So let's pull this cable underneath all the way through. Make sure you have enough slack. Get rid of these Tire Trek floor mats. Pretty cool, huh? This is where it's going to be impossible for you to get a shot without my fat head getting in the way. He's going up. Alright, so now that that's in there, we could secure these. And go all the way up. Mine takes us out right here. And you can see that's your cable
Screen run
going right up there. Then it's going to go up and over out here into the glove compartment. Love this vape juice, it's fucking good.
Alright, so we got the wiring set up. Behind this panel, there's a pink and blue wire for this electrical outlet. So whenever the key is on, it's going to send power to that wire. And the ground was conveniently located back here. So we went ahead and grounded it back here. So now power cable is going to come straight up to the back of the radio. The coax is going to come up to the back. So when it closes, it'll have all this room but down here to actually close with it. So you won't see any wires at all underneath here or throughout the whole vehicle when the install is finished. So what do you got going on here?
Alright, so I got this foam, right? You can get it in any hardware store. It's insulation foam. It's nice and dense, right? So it's going to be a solid mount that I'm going to basically sandwich the CB into the glove box with. With this foam right here, I'm going to cut strips out to dampen it. That way it's not making noise vibrating. This piece of paper I cut out very roughly to the shape of the inside of the glove box. So I know basically what I'm going to do is cut these into ramps. And then those ramps on the top and the bottom will hold in my radio securely, right? Just like that, how we showed earlier. That way when you're bumping and bouncing, and then heartbreakingly you're going to have to cut a hole in the back for your coax and your power. But you could always get these glove boxes at a salvage yard for cheap if you ever wanted to go back. Are you even gonna be able to see what I'm doing? So, right now I'm eyeballing where I need to go. You can kind of see it's roughly shaped. I'll have to trim back here. You want as much, you want as much contact as possible. Because not only is this going to mount your CB, but these are going to be glued in. And a glue with a gap, or glue joint with a gap, is a bad glue joint. For thickness. Let's try that out. I'm just hastily measuring right now. Almost making a jig to get the right thickness. Right, so I can measure this too, but it's about 3/4 of an inch is where the front of this is going to go, 3/4 of an inch. Then it's going to go straight at an angle to the thickness of this. So let's find out. It's going to be a lot of this too, a lot of trial and error. So my foam, I want to end right at this latch assembly. So we'll stick this in right at the latch, right? I'm gonna mark it with my razor blade where I want to cut. And then I'm gonna cut my little measurement that I made. Cut all the way through. Right? You could look up DIY videos. Basically, you get a guitar string connected to a battery with a little potentiometer on a PVC pipe that makes an elbow, and it's a foam cutting table. So it's a hot knife. Basically, you just slide it through like this and it cuts it. But since I'm moving, I'm not blessed with all my stuff. So you got to improvise. But that's what makes good DIY, is improvise. That's what DIY is, right? So I'm gonna go, this is the front bottom, back bottom, top bottom, right? So just knowing that this is at the very top of my radio, or the very top of my glove box up here, and that's where the top of my radio is gonna be, I'm gonna just measure it with the radio. And it doesn't have to be perfect because you're gonna use that foam. It's an insulator, right? So there's my little mark. Do you have a straight edge? Alright. So now something generally straight to guide you, like this piece of paper.
I have Sharpies too.
I'm gonna take this, and I'm basically just gonna, without killing myself or cutting myself, I'm gonna slice it through. And that's my mark, right? That's actually pretty straight. I'm impressed with myself. Right. Trim off this piece that we measured. Once you have one of these, the rest are easy. So let's test this. We'll put it right in the middle, right where I want it. We'll take our CB radio, the way that we want it, right back in there, right? And now, we'll take it to the Jeep. Alright, we're gonna put the glove box back in with this sitting here, just like this. We're gonna close it. So it looks like, let's get it back all the way down, make sure do it slower this time. Something is rubbing. So that's something we need to figure out. We'll see if we can move it over to the side. So that's good to know. That means I had to make this a little bit lower. That lowered it a lot. This thing's getting ugly too. We could always use this though if you care about how it looks. You could always use this to make a pattern. I'm thinking 1, 2, 3 would be perfect. Okay, let's try to fit it again. This is part of doing custom stuff, is you're always going to be fitting, trying to see if everything works until you get it right. Alright, so here's our little foam, our little mount. Make sure it's right side up. Put it in there, just how we want it. See, seeing how it slides like that, that's telling me I need to make the back just a little bit taller. But that's not going to be an issue because that foam insulation we're going to put in there. So we'll end like that. Perfect. So that's where I want the other two. You got a Sharpie, Jess? So a little tip for you that makes things easier is whenever you have a really long straight line, the way the factory has this foam, it's always going to be perfect, right? So put that longest line right there where you want it, and then you're going to cut all these curves out. So since I want two more, I'm just going to go like this, trace them out to where I need them. And I'll cut those out and I'll have my little mounts. Try to make it as straight as possible. You don't have any sandpaper, huh?
Nope.
That sucks because I have sandpaper in my truck and I'd really like to, when I glue these together, make them nice, you know? Nice and square. So the trick to cutting this foam, also, I build a lot of airplanes. So I could show you right here. Once you get about 3/4 of the way through, tilt the blade and pull. That way you get a nice clean edge on the bottom. Because if you just push it all the way through, like this, sometimes you get a lot of tear out and it doesn't go all the way, but most of the times it'll rip the edges and it just doesn't look good. But this is not going to matter because all these rough cuts are all going to get cleaned up and then hidden. But this is just a main support for the CB. When it comes to stuff like this, just waste it. And now we have 3 copies of the original. They'll get glued together, sanded, finished, painted with Plastidip because Plastidip does not affect the foam. And then, let me grab this glove box. This will be what you're mounting your radio to. Right in there. And then, I'll show you that later, but we'll do a top mount too. Keep it nice and secure. So I'm using clear Gorilla Glue. You gotta be careful with Gorilla Glue because it foams. So you don't want to put it too far on the edge. And we'll just stick that together. And I'll do that for the other 2. So we'll go around. And you can see up close, see how it's not a super fat bead, it's just enough to glue it together. It's not necessarily structural, so it just needs to hold itself together for what I'm doing with it. Because this one, the shortest one, I'm going to square all these off because you will see this. The way I'm planning on doing it, you will see it. Go.
Ammo can.
Just use your friendly ammo can that's laying around. Never forget Mountain Dew. It's the most important. Alright, so while this is drying, it's going to take about 15 minutes before it's strong enough that you're not going to really be moving it. Alright. So what we're going to do to keep this from flopping around is we have our bolts for the CB that go on the side. We're just going to drill 2 holes in the side of the glove box, either or, and then screw that into here. So Gorilla Glue, if you did not know, an accelerant for Gorilla Glue is water. So we put a little bit of water in here to help accelerate the glue. Because this right here, there's, we're not going to clamp it. We're just going to stick it in there and pray to God it works, right? So I'm going to put my little bit of glue on there. It doesn't have to be much. Just enough to get it to stick, because the radio is going to be putting a lot of pressure on here. This is just to keep it from moving, right? And there you go. Alright, so we drilled our 2 holes for our coax and our power cable. We used a one of these guys. It's like a drill for coax cable. They gotta clean up the burrs, but they're fresh. And then you can see when we plug it in, we'll pull the cables through, plug them in, push this in, bolt it up, and they should be lined up fairly well. I put a little zip tie up here, drill 2 holes, put a zip tie up to lock these into place, and then I'm about to cable manage all these and get them all nice and tied up, and then that should be done. Super simple.
Did you already do the antenna on the back?
I already did the antenna on the back. I came around, I got as much bare metal underneath this washer as I could, sprayed it with some anti-corrosive spray, and then tighten it as tight as I could get it to lock washer, and then screw the antenna on. And then we put the spare tire on. I took the spare tire off to have more room for wrenches, make it a little bit more comfortable. Got an impact socket, so might as well. So now, alright, checking our work. Sorry. He's covering his nose because I shit my pants. Got it. Alright, it's filming. So basically, the finished product would be, you just open this up, and bam, you have your CB, you get your RX, your TX, all that stuff.